Welcome to the CFB Breakdown Show, the only place where we keep it real, just raw passion, loud takes, and everything you need to get hyped about college football. It's that time of year, grills fired up, beers cold, and the debate about who's actually good is louder than ever. Forget the name brands, forget the hype, it's all about who's earning it on the field week in, week out. Some days we dive deep into the chaos. Some days we break down the stats that actually mean something, and sometimes, we celebrate the legends who built this game. So grab a beer or two, or a 12-pack. Buckle up, and let's get after it. This is the CFB Breakdown Show. Today we're unleashing something massive. Imagine a world where college football never lost its roots, where the Big Eight, the Southwest Conference, the Big East, and all those legendary leagues kept rolling just like they did in 1995. Rivalries never broken. Traditions untouched. Chaos gloriously, definitely alive. The 2021 season started the way so many do. The big names flexing, the blue bloods strutting, but before long, it became clear. The real power that year wasn't Alabama or Ohio State, it was chaos itself. In the Heartland, Oklahoma looked untouchable early. Caleb Williams was slinging it. The Sooners looked poised for another run until they walked into Manhattan. Kansas State, scrappy, fearless, and tired of being overlooked, drew up a trick play for the ages. Overtime. Touchdown. Bedlam in Bill Snyder Family Stadium. The Sooners walked out stunned, and the Big Eight was officially unchained. Down south, the Southwest Conference turned into pure Texas drama. The Longhorns had the swagger, but A&M had the last laugh. A late touchdown in Kyle Field sent the Aggie crowd into delirium and left Austin in ruins. The message was clear. No one owned this league. In the Big Ten, Michigan finally exorcised its demons. Ohio State came to Ann Arbor expecting another walkover, but Harbaugh's bunch had other ideas. A cold November drive, clock ticking, snow falling, and Michigan punched it in. The big house erupted. 20 years of pain, gone in an instant. Out west, USC and UCLA gave us pure Hollywood chaos. Late in the fourth, the Trojans pulled off a game-winning touchdown that had the Coliseum shaking. It was the Pac-10 at its best. Wild, unpredictable, cinematic. And down in Tallahassee, the ACC gave us fireworks. Florida State and Clemson traded blows all night before the Noles snatched it in the final seconds, Doak Campbell Stadium exploding in disbelief. The Big East? Oh, it was old-school fury. West Virginia and Pitt reignited the backyard brawl, and when WVU scored as time expired, Morgantown nearly set itself on fire. And of course, the SEC stayed true to form. Alabama and Georgia met in an October classic, a heavyweight battle that came down to the final seconds, and of course, it was Bama who found the end zone last. By the end of the regular season, the playoff picture was set. Nebraska, Alabama, Florida State, and USC. Nebraska took down Florida State in a thriller. Alabama edged USC in a nail-biter, and that set up a clash of titans, Nebraska versus Alabama for all the marbles. The tide struck first, the Huskers answered, and with seconds left, Nebraska marched the field and found the end zone. 31-28. The Husker crowd went nuclear. The Heartland ruled the college football world again. Folks, if you thought 2021 was wild, 2022 said, "Hold my headset." This wasn't just chaos, it was a full-blown mutiny. Underdogs were taking swings, blue bloods were wobbling, and every Saturday felt like the season was hanging by a thread. It all started in the Big Eight, where Missouri lit a match and burned the script. Late in the fourth, down by 4 seconds on the clock, one final drive, one last heave, touchdown Tigers. Columbia erupted, the stands shook, and just like that, Missouri sent a message to the nation. In this league, anybody can win. In the Southwest Conference, it was heartbreak in College Station. Arkansas marched down the field and drilled a walk-off field goal that split the uprights and the hearts of Texas A&M fans. The Hogs mobbed the kicker, Aggies stunned. Chaos had officially packed its bags and moved south. The Big Ten wasn't spared, either. Penn State and Wisconsin went toe-to-toe in a heavyweight slugfest under the lights in Happy Valley. Final seconds ticking away, the Nittany Lions dropped a dime into the end zone. Touchdown. The place exploded. That roar you heard echoing across the Midwest? That was the sound of order collapsing. Meanwhile, on the West Coast, it was speed, flash, and fireworks. Oregon and Washington delivered an instant classic, lead changes, bombs downfield, and a final-second touchdown that had Autzen Stadium shaking. Oregon punched its ticket into the playoff conversation with authority. Down in the ACC, Clemson stayed cool, surgical, and ruthless. Their October showdown with North Carolina came down to one play. The Tigers drew it up, executed it perfectly, and walked away with another dramatic win. The Death Valley machine was humming. Over in the Big East, it was complete mayhem. Miami stunned West Virginia, Syracuse shocked Pitt, and then Boston College one-upped them all with a last-minute stunner over Miami. The standings? You might as well have shredded them, pure anarchy. And, in the SEC, oh, it was vintage Bayou magic. LSU clawed their way past Florida in the final seconds, the crowd roaring, the lights blinding, the swamp turned electric. Death Valley was alive again, and the Tigers were back in the national mix. When the playoff dust settled, the field was as wild as the path that led there: Oklahoma, Georgia, Penn State, and Miami. From the first whistle, it was instant theater. Oklahoma and Miami traded blows until a fourth-down touchdown sealed it for the Sooners, one for the highlight reels. Georgia barely escaped Penn State, grinding out a win that took every ounce of Bulldog grit. And then came the championship. Oklahoma versus Georgia, two heavyweights, one field. Everything on the line. The Sooners' quarterback stood tall, calm in the storm, marching down the field one throw at a time. Final play, end zone strike, touchdown Oklahoma.
Ball game.
34-31. Heartland football reigned supreme once again. Ladies and gentlemen, 2023 wasn't just another season. It was chaos wrapped in drama, dipped in overtime, and served with a side of heartbreak. The first ever 12-team playoff cracked open the sport's old order, and once the dust settled, nothing made sense anymore. Let's start in the Big Eight, where the rivalry of all rivalries, Nebraska and Oklahoma, reminded the nation why they're two of college football's greatest teams. A last-second miracle in Lincoln gave the Huskers a 35-32 win, and the place nearly came unglued. But just when everyone thought Nebraska had punched its ticket to glory, Colorado came storming out of the Rockies like an avalanche. Back-to-back wins over Nebraska and Oklahoma sent shockwaves across the Heartland. The Big Eight was officially unhinged. Meanwhile, deep in the Southwest, chaos had its own zip code. SMU drew up a trick play masterpiece to stun Texas. TCU dragged Texas A&M into overtime, and Baylor lit up Arkansas in a shootout that left defensive coordinators hiding under their headsets. Down there, every Saturday felt like a playoff. Up north, the Big Ten was a madhouse of its own. Iowa shocked Ohio State, Minnesota got one over on Wisconsin, and Michigan State nearly sent Penn State packing. No week was safe, no favorite was sacred. And out west, the Pac-10 turned pure lunacy. The Apple Cup went to the wire, Washington surviving Washington State by a single point, while Arizona and Arizona State pulled off upsets that turned the standings upside down. Then came the ACC, where the weirdness only deepened. North Carolina stunned Florida State, Wake Forest joined the fun, and at that point fans started asking if they were watching football or some sort of fever dream. Even the Big East got in on the madness. Rutgers, yes Rutgers, helped blow up the standings like a fireworks show gone rogue. And in the SEC, the unthinkable happened. After years of heartbreak, Vanderbilt finally beat Alabama, driving the dagger home with a late-game march that sent First Bank Stadium into orbit. Auburn, Tennessee, and Florida all added their own chaos to the mix. The South wasn't stable, it was shaking. It all began with 12 teams, each one convinced this was their year. Nebraska, Alabama, Washington, and Florida State earned the right to rest, securing first-round byes. The others, Oklahoma, Colorado, Michigan, Syracuse, Oregon, Clemson, Missouri, and Penn State, were thrown straight into the fire. From there, chaos reigned. In the first round, Colorado shocked Michigan, pulling off a win that no one saw coming. Oregon and Missouri turned their matchup into a track meet, with the Ducks sprinting away late. Syracuse stunned Penn State in a thriller, while Clemson barely escaped Oklahoma, winning by the skin of its teeth. Then came the quarterfinals, and the madness only intensified. Nebraska handled Clemson with calm precision. Alabama was tested by Syracuse but outlasted them. Florida State survived Oregon in a high-octane battle, and Washington edged Colorado in an instant classic that left fans breathless. The semifinals? Pure chaos. Nebraska and Alabama collided in a slugfest, a battle in the trenches where the Huskers clawed out a gritty win. On the other side, Florida State and Washington traded haymakers all game long, but in the end, the Seminoles survived another thriller. It all came down to this: Nebraska versus Florida State. Everything on the line. A 35-32 showdown. Every inch fought for, every second a war. But when the confetti finally rained down, it was Nebraska standing tall once again, champions of the Heartland, reclaiming their crown in a season that redefined madness. By 2024, college football wasn't just wild, it was weaponized. More teams, more fireworks, and one truth that ruled them all: nobody, and I mean nobody, was safe. The Big Eight? Pure war zone. Every week was a headline. Missouri shocked Nebraska, turning Lincoln silent for the first time all season. Colorado kept swinging, toppling every giant in sight. Kansas State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, each had their moment in the national spotlight, leaving fans everywhere asking the same thing: what in the world is happening in the Heartland? Down in the Southwest, the sleeping giant finally woke up. Houston stepped up and dropped a hammer on Texas, a rivalry win so seismic it rattled the whole Lone Star State. Houston was back, and the rest of the region felt it. Meanwhile, the Big Ten turned into a weekly roller coaster. Purdue outlasted mighty Michigan in an overtime slugfest, and Northwestern's defense, yes, Northwestern, stood tall and shut down Ohio State in a stunner no one saw coming. The Midwest wasn't steady anymore. It was mayhem in maize and blue. Out west, the Pac-10 delivered pure tactical beauty. Stanford pulled off a masterclass, appending Oregon in a chess match on grass, while Cal stole the show with a last-second miracle over UCLA. Brains and brawn, meeting at the perfect moment. Then came the ACC, where football turned into live theater. Virginia and Georgia Tech traded late touchdowns, razor-thin finishes, and heart-stopping drives. Every Saturday felt like opening night on Broadway, except with helmets and heartbreak. And the Big East? Oh, that was chaos refined. Syracuse, West Virginia, and Miami, passing heartbreaks around like poker chips in a high-stakes showdown. No leads were safe, no fan bases left calm. But the SEC, as always, took chaos and turned it into art. Ole Miss shocked Florida in a thriller. Arkansas clipped Alabama at the buzzer. And South Carolina? They toppled Georgia. The South didn't just rise again, it burned gloriously. The playoff arrived like a storm: 12 teams, one crown, and no room for error. A masterpiece of madness was about to unfold. Oklahoma, Georgia, Oregon, and Miami earned the first-round byes, a brief moment to breathe while the others were thrown into the fire. Missouri, Clemson, Colorado, Nebraska, Alabama, Florida State, Washington, and Kansas State had no such luxury. For them, the gauntlet began immediately. And the first round? Instant theater. Washington stunned Colorado, shaking up the bracket before it had even settled. Alabama, fast and ruthless, raced past Missouri. Florida State barely survived Kansas State in a game that had heart-stopping coast to coast. And Nebraska, Oh, Nebraska reminded everyone who they were, taking down Clemson with grit and swagger. The chaos rolled on into the quarterfinals. Oklahoma and Alabama slugged it out in a heavyweight brawl, the Sooners edging it late. Georgia faced a furious challenge from Florida State, but held firm to survive. Nebraska and Oregon battled into overtime, and the Huskers, relentless, found a way. Meanwhile, Washington, the underdog turned headline, slipped past Miami with ice in their veins. Then came the semifinals, and with them, legends were made. Oklahoma and Georgia went blow for blow in a thriller, neither team blinking, until the Sooners landed the final punch. On the other side, Washington shocked Nebraska, the upset that rocked the nation. From the shadows, they had risen. Now, they stood one win from glory. It set the stage for a final no one could have scripted, Oklahoma versus Washington for everything. And what a final it was. A cinematic masterpiece, lead changes, deep shots, jaw-dropping moments, fans pacing, coaches sweating, history waiting. In the final moments, tied and tense, Oklahoma's offense took the field.
Calm.
Collected.
Destined.
They marched. They struck. They won. Final score, 38-35. Oklahoma, champions again. The Heartland still rules the sport and the arms race. It's only just beginning. After 4 years of unrelenting drama, of last-second drives, miracle upsets, and rivalries that refused to fade, one truth rose through the smoke and chaos, clear as a crisp fall Saturday sky. The Big Eight stood alone. From the roaring plains of Nebraska to the rolling hills of Oklahoma, from Columbia to Manhattan, Boulder to Ames, the Heartland had become the beating heart of college football. Every town, every team, every Saturday. Nebraska, Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas State, Colorado, Iowa State, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. Each carved its name into the sports mythology. Each delivered those unforgettable Saturdays, the kind that left your heart pounding, your voice hoarse, and your soul certain that this was more than just a game. The Big Eight wasn't just a conference anymore. It was something bigger. A heartbeat. A living, breathing force pulsing through the soul of the sport. In this wild, what-if version of the 2020s, where every week felt like a season and every game carried the weight of legend, the Big Eight didn't just return, it ruled. Brutal weeks, glorious playoffs, rivalries rekindled, dynasties challenged, kings crowned. And through it all, one truth refused to be denied. The Big Eight is college football. And the Heartland still reigns supreme. And that's a wrap for this episode of the CFB Breakdown Show. This isn't just X's and O's, folks. It's the thunderous Big Eight chaos, the visceral Southwest Conference drama, the unstoppable Big Ten power, the dazzling Pac-10 speed, the surgical ACC precision, the blazing SEC fire, and the gritty Big East toughness, all rolled into one wild, unrelenting college football universe. Every conference, every rivalry, every last-second touchdown. It's the kind of chaos that makes college football impossible to quit. Thanks for tuning in. Seriously, you're the best damn audience in the game. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and share this with everyone who bleeds their team's colors. I'll catch you next time with more legendary tales, jaw-dropping plays, and gridiron drama so wild it'll make your head spin like a top. Until next time, stay loud, bleed your team's colors, and try not to let the highs and lows crush your soul. And hey, thanks to AI, we got to explore a true what-if. What if the conferences had stayed the way they were in the glory days? I hope you enjoyed this journey, because in the end, it's all about the chaos, the drama, and the pure, unfiltered joy of college football.